Okay, so last time we learned that there are various different levels of ani, how to define myself, and the way love of self helps a person love others is because one should use one's sense of self and expand it to include not just one's personal body, not even one's body and soul, not even one's own ruchnias or own gashmias, but obviously a basic level those of his family, and then to try and expand that beyond that, the sense of self should include the his community, his city, his people, Am Yisrael, and even the entire world. And I mentioned last week that I believe that last time we learned that I believe that the way we define in our own minds a tzaddik is a person who is concerned equally for other people as for himself, because he doesn't see himself as cut off from other people, but everybody becomes part of his sense of self. Everybody he's concerned about. And let's start from here then. It's a little bit back from where we finished last time. Some of you follow the pathway of Torah. His sense of self includes all of Am Yisrael. Because every Jewish person is really just a limb, a body part of the greater body of the Jewish nation. And there are also higher levels of a more perfect person. It's appropriate for him to root in his soul, to feel all the worlds, everything which Hashem created in the universe. His ani. And my physical or even my spiritual self is only one limb within the totality of the bria, one small part, and I'm a part of everybody. But us then, kam regesh avas atzmo, as we said before, even the emotion of loving oneself, ozer lo lehelvus kol am Yisrael, helps him to love all Jews. That's called bria kula and the entire creation. And now he says a beautiful, beautiful idea, an extraordinary idea. Dati, we're over here. Dati merumas inyan zebe ma'amaro shel Hillel olav Hashem. This is hints at in Hillel's statement. What did Hillel say? Hillel made a famous statement in Pirkei Avos. He said, "Im ein ani li mili, she'omer im ein ani li mili. If I am not for myself, who is for me? But I am just for myself. What am I? What did Hillel mean by this? So Hillel is saying an amazing thing, according to the way Reb Shimon explains it. He's saying, yes, a person always should make the effort and be concerned for himself, right? Like we learned the phrase "chayecha komin," your life comes first. But with that, yisameitz lavin, person should make an effort to understand. Shani latzmi mani. If I define my ani, my sense of self, as just my personal body and soul, what is my ani worth? If you narrow your sense of what your ani means to a very narrow circle, based on what he said, based on who he sees and who he comes into contact with, as ani ze mahu. Then this ani, what is it? Hevelu. It's empty. Like nothing. But if his feeling is truly that the totality of the creation is the greater human being, and he's a small part of this great body, that uplifts also his value. So before he gives, he's going to give a mashal. Before he gives the mashal, so Rav Shimon is saying in Hillel's statement is again, everybody has a different sense of ani, right? So my ani can include just me, my ani can include my family, my ani can include all of Am Yisrael, my ani can include the totality of creation, everybody in the world. So the point being that a person has to work on their ani, that their ani should be as expansive as possible. So in ein ani li, if I am not for myself, me li, nobody's going to be myself. But shani latzmi, if I define my ani just as myself, just as my personal self, without including everybody else I can possibly include within it, then money, what is my ani worth? So Reb Shimon's fundamental principle is that a person has to feel part of the totality, at least of his family, and preferably of Am Yisrael, and if at all possible, of the entire Bria, of the entire creation. And that's a tremendously difficult thing to do. It requires work, but it doesn't mean that it's impossible. People can define their selves as not their limited self, but rather an expanded sense of self. And he gives another mashal here. He says, in a great machine, Sha'arei Yosher katan, even the smallest nail, if it serves some purpose for the machine, it's significant. Everybody in the world is significant, even if we seem to be less significant than other people. Even other people seem to be more significant. That's because they are bigger wheels in the machine. But every part of the machine is necessary, otherwise the machine will not function. So even the smallest part, the smallest nail, the smallest spring, the smallest circuit, if it's not functioning properly, the whole machine doesn't function properly. So therefore, Reb Shimon is saying that there is no such thing as somebody who is not significant to the greater mission of Am Yisrael. If Am Yisrael is this great body or this great machine, each and every one of us has a role to play in it. And the role we play in it is something which requires us to understand that we are one and we are together and we're all functioning together with the rest of Am Yisrael. So he said, and he adds on here, Sha'klal banui mipratim, the general totality of something is built up of specific components, and the greater totality, in this case in the machine, cannot function if the specific details, if the parts of the machine, of all parts of the machine are not functioning properly. So each one of us has a responsibility to our expanded sense of self, which should include much more than just our personal selves. Also, we should look at the gifts which are given from heaven. From the dew of heaven and the fat of the earth, which is a quote from the bracha that Yitzchak gave to Yaakov. Everything in this world is given, and we mentioned this when we in room 309 when we got into a big debate last week. Everything in this world is given to the Jewish nation as a whole. Nothing is given to individuals as individuals. People have to learn that lesson. It's a very difficult lesson to learn. I'm talking for myself, not for you. It's a very difficult lesson for me to learn. What's the lesson that we have to learn? So the lesson is the division to individuals. It's only as what we call in English a trustee or a treasurer. In other words, right now it's talking about tzedakah, about money. Soon he's going to talk about other things. But right now about money. If you're rich, if you have a lot of money, you don't own that money. That money's not yours. You were given that money to use as what? You're given that money to use as Hashem wants you to use it, to distribute it as Hashem wants you to distribute it. It's not given to you for your personal purposes. Yes, of course, you can use part of it for personal purposes, and that's why Hashem gave it to you. But overwhelmingly, you have to figure out what Hashem wants me to do with it and why He would give me this money, not as mine, but money with which to fulfill Ratzon Hashem. And he says, to give it out to people who need it. The people need it, each one as they need it. We told Atzmon also to take for oneself, based on what is appropriate for you. You have to carefully consider when you get a gift from Shamayim, what Hashem wants you to do with it. At basis, we can understand the unique quality of tzedakah, which makes the people who give tzedakah rich. Chazal say on the pasuk which says aser to aser, you should give meiser from your crops. Aser b'shvil shetis asher, they darshan give meiser so you become rich. How do you become rich by giving tzedakah? Why would giving tzedakah make you rich? Doesn't really make sense. You're giving away the money. You're not keeping the money. So of course there's the idea of the mitzvah, and obviously doing a mitzvah gives you a schus, but most mitzvahs, they don't give you reward in this world, they give you reward in the world to come. In the world, in Olam Haba, you get schar for your mitzvahs, not Olam Hazeh. So why should you get more money because you gave money appropriately to tzedakah? In Olam Haba, they'll give you a very nice place for that. Why in Olam Hazeh should you get more money? So he says a very interesting idea. He says, you have somebody who's in charge of the treasury in the country. Both are katan, and he's in charge of a small treasury. He's in charge of one of the minor treasuries. There are a lot of treasuries all over with various different treasures, and he's in charge of one of the small ones. If he does his job properly, he's going to be promoted. He's going to get the people see, his superiors see, oh, you know what? This guy is a great treasurer. He does his job in an amazing way. He uses the resources which he's in charge of the way they should be used, and very honestly and very trustfully and very correctly. So let's promote him. Let's give him a bigger otzar because he's proved that he's worthy of promotion. So they're going to be promoted. Even if he's not great in anything else he does, but the very fact that he shows that he can use the treasury, which is given to him to be in charge of, the right way, shows that he's worthy of being promoted to a higher level. And that says Rav Shimon, it's Hashem investing in you in this world. Why would you get richer? Because you give tzedakah? Not because it's a reward, but because Hashem looks for the treasurers on his treasure who are doing the job in the best possible way, and he's going to give them more responsibility and more treasure to distribute, to be in charge of it to distribute. So it's not a reward in Olam Hazeh so much as a greater responsibility, which is he's given because he's proved that he can fulfill his responsibility on one level. They say, go to the next level. Now that's true. On the other hand, if they find out that you've been slack on the job, you haven't been doing what you're supposed to do. Any other great qualities which he has. He'll be a wonderful person in many different ways. But if he's not wonderful on his job, in taking care of the treasury which he's in charge of, they're going to demote him. They're going to send him down a level because he's not responsible in that which we will need him to be responsible in. Now that's my money. But the thing is, says Rav Shimon, a very, very interesting idea is, this is true also about the treasure, the divine treasures which are given to a person. So what does that mean? Let's say Hashem made you very smart. So then Hashem didn't make you very smart to keep it to yourself. Hashem made you very smart in order that you should share your knowledge with others. And if you don't share your knowledge with others, you're not doing what Hashem wants you to do. If you share your knowledge with others, then Hashem will give you more knowledge because you're using the knowledge He gives you the right way. If you don't share with others, then you're not doing what Hashem wants you to do. You're going to lose, actually, some of the knowledge you possess. You're certainly not going to get more. So although he doesn't say it this way, that could be pshat. There's a very well-known statement of Chazal. Harbei l'matmi Rabbosai. I learned a lot from my Rebbe. Yosem chavirai. I learned more from my friends. I learned from my talmidim more than I learned from my teachers and my friends. Why is that? Because there are many different interpretations of that. But what Reb Shimon, the pshat is that if I give my talmidim what's appropriate for them, I try and impart my wisdom to them and don't keep it for myself, then Hashem gives me, that promotes me. He gives me more wisdom. He gives me more knowledge. He gives me more of an understanding of how to deal with people in order to inspire them, in order to teach them. So if a person wants to grow in knowledge and wisdom, you have to be able to use the knowledge and wisdom you got, not selfishly, but selflessly. You have to do it in order to give it over to others. Now, this is true not just about being smart or being wise and knowledgeable. It's true if you have any good midah. Any good midah a person has, and there are many types of midos a person has. If you have a person who doesn't get angry easily, they're slow to anger, which is an amazing, amazing midah, which is very hard to possess. If you possess that midah, then you're supposed to teach others how to deal with their anger. If you possess the midah of being calm and not being anxious, which is again amazing midah to possess, you're supposed to try and help others be calm and not become anxious. Everybody has some midah which Hashem gave them, in which they have unique powers, unique strengths. And you're given that midah, not just money and not just wisdom, but any midah a person has, which Hashem gave that person, they're supposed to help other people develop that midah as well. Every person has the capacity, even if they're not smart, even if they're not rich, to help somebody else with one of the midos which Hashem gave them, in which they do excel. So the idea of being a trustworthy treasurer and dealing with the resources you have in the proper way is to make sure that you help others who should also be an extension of yourself with those midos, with that chachma, with whatever you got as a gift from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I don't know if I ever told you this, but I probably did, but it's worth repeating. There's a very strange Reb Chaim Shmulevitz statement of Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, which is very difficult to accept and very difficult to understand, and very difficult to fulfill if it's true. Reb Chaim Shmulevitz says that the mitzvah of kibbud av va'em is to find the midah in which your parent is the greatest person of the generation, and acknowledge that they are the greatest person in the generation in that midah. Which means, I don't know how people do that. It's a very, very high level kibbud av va'em. I'm not in that much radar. But the point that he's making is that each person, including our parents, have a special, unique quality which nobody else in the world has. And kibbud av va'em is trying to recognize, identify, and honor that trait. That's what it's about. So the kibbud av va'em is about that. So also here we're talking about how you deal with other people. You're supposed to find your unique midah, which is you're special with, and nobody else has it to the same extent. Or if they do, they should also be doing the same thing with it, even if they also have the same midah, and use it to distribute it to others. And that's what he says, so too in the treasures of heaven. And he told them which you give them to a person, which are a person's chachma, a person's midos, a person's character and personality. If he gives proper meiser, so to speak, from his midah and helps other people with them, he's fulfilling his treasury, his responsibility appropriately. We taught to take for himself what he's supposed to take for himself according to the ways of Torah, and distribute to people who it's appropriate. Similarly, based on the Torah's command. As if you use your talent, the special talent which you have, in the right way, as Yisasher, then you'll be enriched, Yismaneh, and you'll be appointed the Gizbaros to the treasury, to be in charge of the treasure of a greater treasure, and a person will be ever grow greater and greater in whatever their strengths and talents lie, wherever their strengths and talents lie. So that Hashem's will be followed out. But Tavas HaKlal, but in doing good to the greater society, to the greater group, to Am Yisrael, by using the treasury, maintaining the treasury in the best possible way. With this, a trustworthy person, person has a trustworthy spirit. Also, Ratzon Konis Baruch does the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So again, to sum up, a sense of self has to include as many people, as many facets of the creation as possible. And you're supposed to use the resources which you have, the talents which you have, the strengths which you have on yourself, but meaning yourself, your expanded self. And you have to look at yourself, we have to look at ourselves as all part of one large group, where each person has to be, is part of our self in our mission and purpose as this big machine, which Reb Shimon describes. And therefore, we each have to help each other. I have to work with my talents, and you have to work with your talents. And together we work and make all of us uplifted together. Now, he says here is a very depressing story which you find in the Gemara. Everybody knows I think everyone knows the story of Nachum Ish Gamzu. Nachum Ish Gamzu always used to say Gamzu L'Toiva. They used to say everything is for the good. But once upon a time, Nachum Ish Gamzu messed up. And it says that a poor person came to him and asked him for tzedakah. And he said, wait till I get off my donkey. According to one version, he said, wait till I get off my donkey. According to another version, he said, wait till I come back from the job I have to do today. So, and the person in the meantime died, the poor person. And Nachum Ish Gamzu was terribly, terribly upset. And he said that since his eyes did not have mercy on that person's eyes, he should become blind. And since his hands did not have mercy on the other person's hands, his hands should be cut off. And since his legs did not have mercy on the other person's legs, his legs should be cut off. And so on and so forth. And all these type of things happened in Nachum Ish Gamzu. He lost a tremendous amount of his capacity to function in this world. Why? Why did he do this to himself? Obviously he didn't do it to himself because it would be awesome to do it to himself, but somehow Hashem did it to him. So why did Nachum Ish Gamzu do this to himself? Why did he actually ask for this to happen? So he says, you can feel this idea in the Gemara in Tainus, which tells us a terrible story. But Ish Kadosh, with the holy person, Nachum Ish Gamzu, that Nachum was to say Gamzu Tova Shaydesha Pam Achas Lo Milecho Vaso with mitzvah tzedakah. Because he felt that he did not do the mitzvah tzedakah according to what he sensed to be appropriate for his level. Because Zara decreed upon himself, she's sumuinov, that he should become blind. He's got to his arm should be cut off. He's got to wear a glove, and his leg should be cut off. And his decree on himself was fulfilled. Why? Why do you do this? So Rabbi Shimon says, I'll explain to you based on what we talked about here. This is how major officials conduct themselves. In an official feels that he not fulfill his obligation properly. He asks, he writes a letter of resignation. He asks his superior to relieve him of his responsibility. So a person who has a sense of failure at the mission, they ask their superior, their boss, I can't do this anymore. I'm not doing it properly. Find somebody else. Get rid of me. I'm not doing it. So too, Kol Zeh Nahag B'atzmo Ish Kadosh Zeh. Nachum Ish Gamzu took this to an extreme, but he was a very holy person. That's why he did it. He knew about himself that all of his strengths, all of his powers, Eino Shalo, they're not his. Buraki Gizbar is only like a treasure on them. So therefore, even he made a mistake. Wasn't deliberate. He made a mistake. B'shmiras tafkid Gizbar in keeping his job as a treasurer properly. He decreed in all his limbs, all the parts of his body, that they should resign from their position, from their job. That's it. I didn't do my job well. I should be demoted. He was. And that was because he felt so terrible about this, and because he was such a high level, he felt such a failure, so that he said, I can't go on this way anymore. I have to resign my limbs, I have to resign from their position because I did not fulfill it responsibly. It's an amazing, amazing way of understanding it. And again, when Shimon says this applies also to wisdom or knowledge or any other midah a person has. It's appropriate for every person. That Hashem gave him some extra special understanding of wisdom in some way, shape, or form. He has to put down a root, very deep root in his soul. It's not given to that person alone. But to be a treasure out there. To distribute it to people who are worthy of it. If he keeps this mission properly, to teach people to whom it's appropriate to teach, then he'll be promoted to a higher position. Shaarei Yosher. By the way, it's an interesting thing he writes here. He says to teach people to whom it's appropriate to teach. Chazal say you're not supposed to teach talmidim she'enam agunim. You're not supposed to teach talmidim who are not going to use wisdom properly. Because just like you have to distribute wisdom to people who are going to use it properly, you have to refrain from distributing wisdom to people who are not going to use it properly. There are people who don't appreciate it. If they don't appreciate wisdom or any other thing, you can't share them. It's bad for them because they're just going to use it improperly. So part of being a good treasurer is knowing when to teach, when to give, and when not to teach, when not to give. And just a very simple example of this, as we all know, is it's not a chesed to give somebody money if they're going to use it to buy drugs or go get drunk, right? There's certain times when, on the contrary, the chesed is not to give that person money because they're going to misuse that money. So you have to know, part of being a good treasurer is not just to give and extend without any reckoning, without figuring out what's right and what's wrong. You have to figure out when it's appropriate, when it's not appropriate, and do it when it's appropriate and stop when it's not appropriate. And when the person does that, then he's going to get to go to a higher level. He's Shaarei Yosher, get more wealthy. And become a treasurer of even greater treasury. And now he says, like we said before, I didn't realize, I forgot that he says this here, that which a person says that I learn more from my talmidim. Besides the natural aspect of this, which is that talmidim ask you questions and they challenge you, and therefore you have to grow in knowledge in order to respond to their questions and to their concerns. The quality of giving tzedakah and giving ma'aser in a spiritual way, which is the idea of teaching and imparting your talents and your knowledge to other people. Mo'il lezeh works for this person who's teaching. To uplift and grow, uplift himself and grow. And like the quality of ma'aser ksafim, which he talked about before. Now, there's one more paragraph in this introduction which is relevant, but I'm going to do it. I'll do it outside because I want to finish it this week so we can go on to next week to the next topic. So the Rav Shimon says that why is Moshe Rabbeinu given praise that he broke the first luchos? The last line Torah, the biggest praise is that he broke the luchos. And Hashem praises him immensely that he broke the first luchos. Why? So he said it seems that there was a unique quality in the first luchos. The first luchos were made by Hashem. The second luchos were made by Moshe Rabbeinu. The writing on both of them was from Hashem, but the first luchos, they themselves were given by Hashem. Second luchos, Moshe had to shape in his down here and bring up to Shemayim be written on. So the not just of Shimon, many people say this, that the first luchos had unique quality. But as long as they lasted, which was not very long, obviously, people could learn Torah and not forget it. What it meant is that Hashem made your people's hearts, just like Hashem made the luchos, Hashem makes people's hearts retain Torah. That they be able to retain Torah and master it. Once you learn, you never forgot. And everybody could be a great scholar with ease, without any effort whatsoever. And Moshe Rabbeinu saw, you know what, this is not a good situation, because then you can have people who never worked on themselves, who never became better people, who are corrupt and bad people, who could still become great scholars, great talmidei chachamim, and they're going to mislead people. So therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu broke the luchos, and the second luchos were luchos which a human being had to make himself. Moshe Rabbeinu had to make, and that represents us. Every one of us has to make our heart ready in order to acquire the words of Hashem. And if we don't work on ourselves to make our hearts ready, which means to have the proper midos, proper goodness, proper straightness in our hearts, we're not going to be able to master Torah the way you could have done it according to the first luchos. So what Reb Shimon says is that everything in this world, because of Moshe Rabbeinu broke the first luchos, requires toil and effort. What we're calling in Hebrew amal. Amal means to toil. And you can't become a great person. You can't accomplish anything without toiling. Toiling, and but specifically toiling to become a good person. But Hashem wanted the world to be a world, and that's why Moshe Berger gets a Yasher Koach for having done this. Hashem wanted the world to be a world where we have to work on ourselves in order to be great, and it doesn't come to us as a gift. And that's what Rav Shimon mentioned when we mentioned a few weeks ago, that this world is not supposed to be a world where you get something for nothing. You only get something for something, and that's a much higher level of accomplishment. When you enjoy what you do, the fruits of your labor, when you do something and you get as a result something, it's much more sweet and much more meaningful than if you get something for nothing. So therefore, when Rav Shimon comes along and says over here is that, in this last paragraph, is that in order to get to any level in anything, you have to work. And that's why Moshe Rabbeinu broke the luchos, so to make sure that people don't get things easy, because people get things easy, it's dangerous that people who are not good people will get things easy. It happens as is, but it would have happened even more. So therefore, although sometimes we look at the work we have to do in this world as being very difficult and somewhat of something which we did not want to do, it was up to us. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, no, this is better for you. The way in which you're going to accomplish things in this world meaningfully is by making yourself a better person, and from that being able to grow higher in all other aspects of life. And that says the Gemara says there are two great talmidei chachamim who don't have a portion in the world to come. Doeg and Achiv Tofel. And they're amazing talmidei chachamim. And no chayil kol haba. So Gemara asks, how can it be? How can it be they don't chayil kol haba? It's not, they were tremendous talmidei chachamim. So the Gemara says, I'll tell you why. Rachmano liba boy. Hashem wants your heart. In other words, all the Torah a person learns, all the knowledge, all the wisdom a person has, it doesn't get them into Olam Haba. It only gets into Olam Haba if it changes your heart. If you work on your heart, and your heart is changed by Divrei Torah, you first work on your heart to make yourself worthy of Divrei Torah. And then you use the Torah you learn in order to make yourself a better person. So then that's what gets you Olam Haba. And sometimes if you don't have that goal, the Torah itself, Chazal tell us, if you merit, it becomes a drug of life. If you don't merit it, it becomes a drug of death. Torah itself, anything can become a drug of death if it's not used the right way, meaning you're not using it in order to make yourself a better person. According to Reb Shimon's understanding here in this introduction, to make yourself a better person by definition means that you expand your sense of self and that you devote all of your strengths to accomplishing Kedusha. And as he said at the beginning, Kedusha is that one is devoted to Am Yisrael, is devoted to being mated with others. One's life is a life of giving, concern and giving, and making sure that as much as possible, whatever talents and strengths I got from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I use to benefit others. And when I do that, then I become a holy. That's holy. That makes a person a tzaddik, and that makes a person resemble HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Hashem, in that we are now like Hashem, devoting ourselves to other people in this world. Okay, that is the introduction, the part of the introduction I wanted to do with you. And next week in Mitzvah Hashem, then we're going to go to a new topic. As a topic which was generated by a conversation which we had over the past few several times in room 309 about what the purpose of davening is. Why do we daven? How effective is our davening? And in general, why does Hashem tell us, or why do Chazal tell us that we have to daven at specific times and not just tell us daven whenever you want? And those will be, we're going to go over specific